let's perhaps start off with just briefly defining or breaking down what exactly a smart city is. How does it differ from the current city that we're in?
All right, thank you so much. Well, when we are talking of a smart city, nowadays I'm sure you are aware of the emerging technologies in the area of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data analytics, you name it. So with Smart City, we are saying how best can we leverage on those technologies to better the city management and administration. Issues of service delivery, for example, water, transportation, energy, how can we apply those information and communication technologies for the better, for improved service delivery. Overall, the idea is to have happy citizens. You know, these technologies should ultimately then lead into improved quality of life of citizens in towns and cities. And also nowadays, I'm sure you're aware of climate change issues, sustainability. So environmental preservation within cities then becomes key. So basically, we are saying how do we leverage or use information and communication technologies to achieve such in an environmentally friendly way.
You mentioned the Internet of Things.
Yes.
What is it?
Internet of Things, basically we are saying Internet has got a robust or a full range of possibilities and capabilities that we can utilize to enable, in this context, service delivery. So how can we use or utilize the Internet to have service delivery across our citizens? Yes.
How much of a reality is the creation of smart cities for developing countries like Namibia, if you take into consideration our ICT infrastructure?
In fact, that's a very important question that you have raised. Most developing countries are still struggling in that area because of, I think, 3 or 4 major constraints. The first one being the infrastructure that we have in cities. You know, this is old infrastructure, which during that time when it was designed, it wasn't designed in such a way that it would be amenable to the deployment and development of, ICT. So infrastructure, dilapidated infrastructure, issues of electricity in other countries, water shortages, and all those things. That layer then becomes weak or inappropriate to support the deployment of, ICTs. So second issue has to do with policy and regulatory frameworks. Currently, there is no overarching, policy framework that talks to smart cities, for example. I understand there is the Ministry of Information and ICTs here in Namibia. They've got their own policies regarding smart cities, but these are in bits and pieces. But what I'm saying is there's no overarching policy to deal with such. So many institutions which are involved, but somehow they are fragmented because there is no policy framework. And also the third issue is on skills and capacity. When you talk of qualified human resources who can then champion this issue of smart cities, currently we do not have, although there's a concerted effort from universities such as Namibia University of Science and Technology to train and have more people in that area, data science, urban planning, for example, engineering. So these are some of the constraints that we can have: infrastructure, human skills and capacity, and then thirdly, of course, the issue of funding also come into play.
Research obviously is also going to be key. In this.
Research going to be key. Funding is a problem because smart cities, with these prevailing conditions in most developing countries, we've got other pressing issues, poverty and or other issues. So governments then tend to focus more on those areas. There's currently a perception that smart cities are a luxury, but cities can actually save more when they adopt smart cities solutions.
We've spoken about the challenges, but talk to us about the opportunities that lie in the creation of smart cities for developing countries like Namibia.
Well, there are quite a number of opportunities in various sectors. If I can mention a few, water is one such area. As you might be aware, Namibia is a dry country in terms of receiving minimal rainfall, averaging possibly 400 millimeters in a year. So when you're talking of water supply in cities, we would want to make it more, to minimize the losses that can arise from that scarce resource of water. So there are smart technologies that can be deployed in water conservation. For example, leaks detection from those pipes, which might be old. So we need to ensure that all the water that is produced is delivered to the final consumers. There are also opportunities in transportation, issues to do with pollution. As you might be aware, 25 to 30% of our pollutants come from transportation. So we can deploy what are known as intelligent transportation systems to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. Another area is also which presents an opportunity is the energy sector. Nowadays, we want to move away from the traditional ways of generation of electricity to green, electricity, the issues of solar and hydrogen, of course. So these are the opportunities, and by doing so, the government is likely to save millions, if not billions of dollars by adopting, smart technology solutions. Yes.
There is currently a very robust debate on whether African countries who do have natural resources or fossil fuels should not take advantage of that and use them to develop their economies. On one hand, you have European economies that have developed their economies or countries on fossil fuels, but yet they're telling developing countries like, no, you can't do that now because, the earth is getting warm, global warming and all that stuff. Yes. How do you feel about that, and how do you think it will impact this whole concept of creating, like you said, cleaner, safer, energy efficient cities?
Yeah. I am quite aware of that debate where then some countries feel it's unfair because those developed nations, they developed based on these fossil fuels. I can relate to the Industrial Revolution in the UK in the 18th century. But what we are saying is if there is an opportunity, we do the cost-benefit analysis. If there is an opportunity to leapfrog, rather than following the exact path, we utilize technology to leapfrog rather than doing that traditional way in which those other countries have done, because, we are now more environmentally aware. Conscious, so it's an issue of cost-benefit analysis. We are not throwing away the traditional ways of doing things, but let's have a balance. We can possibly go for both. At one end, we are doing still our fossil fuels, but we leapfrog and we accelerate the adoption of, cleaner energy. So that way, I think it will produce a very balanced development.
All right.
That way, we will achieve sustainable development. Economically, we are developing. Socially, we are developing. And also environmentally, we are conserving the environment.
Yeah. And lastly, if you were to take Windhoek as a city that wants to become a smart city, what's the timeline you'd give us if everybody came to the party?
Well, my take is we focus on low-hanging fruits. Which sort of areas can we focus on now to have those quick wins? For City of Windhoek, I can think of water as a sector, because water is such a critical resource which needs to be conserved. So with that collaborative approach where everyone is coming on board, the private sector, public sector, civil society organizations, universities, academia, we come on board, we identify those quick win areas, and then I think in a year or so, I think it can be done. Already we can reap some fruits there. All
right, Dr. Dumba, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.
Nice.
And that was Dr. Dumba, a senior lecturer at NUST for urban transportation. Was chatting to us about smart cities and how Windhoek can also become one actually in a few years.